Xo'p, section 4 ga o'tamiz, part 4 ga o'tamiz. Instruction one word only, faqatgina bitta so'z. How the Industrial Revolution affected Britain in life in Britain. Demak, Britaniyadagi lifeni qanaqa qilib Industrial Revolution o'zgartirgan, effect qilgan. Ko'ramiz, 19th century, for the first time that the people's possession were used to measure Britain's nima. Odamlarning privilegielari, odamlarning mulklari Britaniyani nimasidir o'lchash ishlatilgan ekan. Developments in production of goods and in greatly changed lives. Demak, bu qismda production, ya'ni ishlab chiqarishdagi o'zgarishlar va nimadagidir o'zgarishlar odamlarning hayotini o'zgartiribdi. Manufacturing, main reasons mana. Industrial Revolution wouldn't have happened without the new types of that were then demak. Industrial Revolution sodir bo'lmasdi, new types of something. Demak, new types of nimadir ishlatmaganimizda sodir bo'lmasdi. Demak, plural bo'ladi, that were used to yozib qo'yibdi, plural narsa. Leading industry was, its products became widely available. Demak, industriyani yozishimiz kerak. Was nima? Qanaqadir industriya bo'lishi kerak. Manufacturing bo'lishi mumkin, steel bo'lishi mumkin, machinery bo'lishi, avtomobil bo'lishi mumkin. New something made factories necessary and some people moved into towns. Nimadir yangi narsalar factorylarni, ya'ni factory, ya'ni zavodlarning qurilishini necessary qilib qo'yibdi, нужный вещь qilib qo'yibdi. Hope transport, railway took place of canals. Because of that new transport, greater access to made people more aware of what they could buy in shops. Demak, nimagadir dosib bo'lganligi, ular shoplarda nima sotib olish mumkinligiga dosib beribdi. When shopping, people were not limited to buying something goods. Bu adjective bo'ladi. Good goods, bad goods, expensive goods. Demak, shopping qilayotganda odamlar qanaqadir produktga limit bo'lib qolmagan, bundan ham boshqa produkt olgan. Inside stores because of weather, nima? Retailing, first department stores, displays of goods were more visible. Inside stores because of better nima. Demak, store ichida yaxshiroq nimadir bo'lgani uchun ham yaxshi visibility bo'lgan. Outside stores because something were bigger. Nimadir katta bo'lgani uchun ham shahar o'sha ko'chadan tashqarida ham, magazindan tashqarida ham ko'rgan ekan. Something that was persuasive became much more common. Demak, nimadir persuasive, ya'ni убеждающий nimadir common bo'libdi. Was birlikda yoki uncountable bo'lganligini ko'rishingiz mumkin. Sizlar mashqlarni shoshilmayman, просто o'qib olinglar yoki pauza qilib olinglar yoki o'qib olinglar. Keyin birgalikda javoblarni birdaniga topib ketishga harakat qilamiz. Keyin endi boshlaymiz.
You will hear a history student giving part of a presentation about changes in British society in the 19th century. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40.
No, don't have time.
And answer questions 31 to 40.
Let's go.
Hi everyone. In this session, I'll be presenting my research about the social history of Britain during the Industrial Revolution. I particularly looked at how ordinary lives were affected by changes that happened at that time. This was a time that saw the beginning of a new phenomenon, consumerism, where buying and selling goods became a major part of ordinary people's lives. In fact, it was in the 19th century that the quantity and quality of people's possessions was used as an indication of the wealth of the country.
Was used as an indication of the wealth of the country. O'z ko'rganingizda quality of people's possessions was indicated as a mana o'qiylik tinchgina o'zimiz qiynab nima qilamiz. Quality of people's possession was used as an indication of the measure and synonym of wealth of the country. Britain's wealth of the country Britain bo'lib qolgan. Bo'ldi.
Before this, the vast majority of people had very few possessions, but all that was changed by the Industrial Revolution. This was the era from the mid-18th to the late 19th century, when improvements in how goods were made, as well as in technology, triggered massive social changes that transformed life for just about everybody in
qisqasi shut up, muncha ko'p gapiradi bular. Improvements degani developments in how products are made and as well as in technology have dramatically blah 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 dedi. Qisqasi ko'p gapiradi bular, tushunmayman. Alloji. Xo'p. Tekshirib olamiz. Mana as was the era of blah blah blah, improvements in how goods were made, bu qismda development, production synonym, as well as in technology, triggered massive social changes that transformed life in just about for just about everybody in several key areas. Both technology job.
Several key areas. First, let's look at manufacturing. When it comes to manufacturing, we tend to think of the Industrial Revolution in images of steam engines and coal. And it's true that the Industrial Revolution couldn't have taken place at all if it weren't for these new sources of power.
If new source of power, coal bilan nimadir dedida, agar couldn't have happened dedi, couldn't have taken place qila olmasa, new source of power ishlatmaganimizda dedi. Topamiz. Well, it's mana image of steam engines and coal. And it's true that Industrial Revolution couldn't have taken place, wouldn't have happened synonym. If at all, if it weren't for bu conditional strukturasi. Bu conditional strukturasini bu sizga tushuntirib berganman. Tushuntirmagan bo'lsam, videosi ham bor. O'shani ko'rib olishingiz mumkin. So'ranglar, men beraman o'sha videoni. If it weren't for bu advanced katta bolalar ishlatadigan grammatik struktura, agar zo'r ishlatsanglar, shuni vashye to'qis qo'yib beradi. Grammatikingga ham, speaking and writingga ham. Shuning uchun ishlatinglar. New source of power demak, qisqasi new source of power bo'ladi javob.
They marked an important shift away from the traditional watermills and windmills that had dominated before this. The most advanced industry for much of the 19th century was textiles. This
most advanced deganda leading the textiles ekan. Textiles. O'qiymiz. The most advanced leading synonym for much of the 19th century was textiles bo'ldi.
Meant that fashionable fabrics and lace and ribbons were made available to everyone.
Widely available.
Before the Industrial Revolution, most people made goods to sell in small workshops, often in their own homes. But enormous new machines were now being created that could produce the goods faster and on a larger scale, and these required a lot more space. So large factories were built, replacing the
new machines, new powerful machines dedi shekilli. Machines. Ko'ramiz javobni. Yeah, enormous deb yozibdi. Often in their own house, but enormous new machines. Enormous yirik degani qisqasi were now being created so that could produce goods faster and larger scale. Tushunarli.
Workshops and forcing workers to travel to work. In fact, large numbers of people migrated from villages into towns as a result. As well as manufacturing, there were new technologies in transport, contributing to the growth of consumerism. The horse-drawn stagecoaches and carts of the 18th century, which carried very few people and goods and travelled slowly along poorly surfaced roads, were gradually replaced by the numerous canals that were constructed. These were particularly important for the transportation of goods. The canals gradually fell out of use, though, as railways were developed, becoming the main way of moving goods and people from one end of the country to the other. And the goods they moved weren't just coal, iron, clothes, and so on. Significantly, they included newspapers, which meant that thousands of people were not only more knowledgeable about what was going on in the country, but could also read about what was available in the shops.
Newspapers dedi. Faqatgina produkt emas, newspaper ham ana qilgan dedi. Transportatsiya qilgan newspapers bo'ldi. Newspaperlardan faqatgina nima bo'layotganini emas, balki shoplarda hozir nima turganini ham o'qishga ham imkoniyati bo'lgan dedi. Mana. Well, the goods they moved weren't just coal, iron and clothes, so on. Secondly, they include newspapers, which meant that thousands of people were not only more knowledgeable about what was going on, but also could read about what was available in the shops.
And that encouraged them to buy more. So faster forms of transport resulted in distribution becoming far more efficient. Goods could now be sold all over the country instead of just in the local market.
All over the country, not just in local market. O'zi ko'rgansiz, local goods bo'ladi. Nimaga local goods bo'ldi? Chunki shipping bo'lgandan keyin hamma butun davlatda ishlab chiqarilgan narsani odam ola olardi, faqatgina local narsani emas. And faster forms of transport result in distribution becoming more efficient. Goods could now be sold all over the country instead of just in one local market. Bo'ldi, local emasda xohlagan narsasini oladi odamlar.
Third main area that saw changes that contributed to consumerism was retailing. The number and quality of shops grew rapidly, and in particular, small shops suffered as customers flocked to the growing number of department stores, a form of retailing that was new in the 19th century. The entrepreneurs who opened these found new ways to stock them with goods and to attract customers. For instance, improved lighting inside greatly increased the visibility of the goods for sale.
Xo'p, improved lighting inside demak, yorug'likni oshirishi lighting bo'ldi. Lightingni improved qilinganligi better visibilityga sabab bo'lgan ekan. O'qiymizmi? Mana qisasi the enterprise opens the first one in ways to stock them with goods, attract customers, for instance, improve lighting inside, greatly increase the visibility of goods for sale bo'ldi.
Another development that made goods more visible from outside resulted from the use of plate glass, which made it possible for windows to be much larger than previously.
Plate glass ishlatilibdi. Plate glass ishlatilishi keyin larger bo'lishiga, Windowslarni larger bo'lishiga sabab bo'ldi. Windows derazalarni, vitrinalarni kattaroq bo'lishiga. Mana plate glass ishlatilgan, which made it possible for windows to be larger than previously. Oldingidan kattaroq bo'lishiga sabab bo'lgan.
New ways of promoting goods were introduced too. Previously, the focus had been on informing potential customers about the availability of goods. Now, there was an explosion in advertising, trying to persuade people to go shopping.
Advertising that was persuade blah blah blah. Advertising. Shu odamlarni persuade qiladigan advertising kuchayib ketgan. Shu bilan bugungi darsimiz o'z nihoyasiga yetadi. Endi qaraylik. Xo'p. Now there was an explosion in advertising that trying to persuade people to go shopping. Qisqasi shu bilan bugungi darsimiz o'z nihoyasiga yetadi. Agar tushunmay qolgan bo'lsanglar, underline qilingan, circle qilingan so'zlarni yodlanglar. Hamma narsani tushuntirishga harakat qildim. O'zingizga mehnat qilinglar, iltimos. Ozgina keyingi darsda ko'rishguncha xayr, bye bye.